Hello everybody, I'm Gwen Campbell-Mindes. Welcome to Gwen's Bookish Ramblings. I'm keeping up with this series because I sort of went right through it, and since I enjoyed them enough, I figured I'd do this. This is, interestingly enough, the last book of the series that I read because I had to actually go to the library and get a physical copy. Because the library has books 1, 2, 4, and 5, but not 3 for some reason. I mean, in their ebook collection. So I will actually be posting these in order, despite what I wound up saying in other posts, because I happen to have all 5 read and in place just barely in time for posting. Like, I'm recording this kind of at the last minute before posting for Thursday. While I have, like, the others already recorded, so fine. Anyway, enough about the vagaries of my life, and let's talk about this book with the ridiculous romance novel cover that we have going. This book it continues the trend of feeling oddly YA. It feels somewhat less than some of the others do. Like, book 4 feels super YA, and this feels less so. But anyways, this is the 3rd book. We'd already been introduced in a previous book to the notion that the dragons in Norveshka, which is, like, I think supposed to be like Iceland, but everything is named pseudo-Russian-ish. She's doing a little bit of the this is not Earth with not Europe and not real European powers. But you can totally see where they're coming from. So we have Gwenor, who is an elf, and the elves are known for flinging themselves across the border and killing a bunch of people and then vanishing and never seeming to have any particular reason for what they're doing. They just kind of do it and then go. And people are like, well, okay, you're not coming here to conquer. You're not staying around to gloat. You're just coming here, killing a bunch of people and then running away again, and it's kind of why. The motivations for this are made much clearer in the 4th book in the series, where we have a bunch of stuff with elves in it. But, in this book, we're just dealing with the Norveshka, who, their population is suffering serious illnesses such that, impotency and non-fertility are rampant. So their population has crashed so much that they have had to take the drastic step of introducing women into their army, which, given that this is a traditionally highly patriarchal society, very European in nature, it's kind of a huge thing. But what's really, really interesting is more that the kings and queens of this country for the last several hundred years have consistently been going insane, and it turns out, after much kerfuffling, that they basically have lead in their crowns and, like, all of this jewelry and stuff, and basically they have been suffering lead poisoning. And the thing about, like, all of these traditional things is that very often, I think it might have been arsenic for hatters. I don't remember what chemical it was. But there are a whole bunch of these things that, like, we have a long history of people working with this and not realizing that this was the reason why everybody in this particular profession went insane. That's where the phrase "mad as a hatter" comes from, is that people who made hats used to have to work with I don't remember what it was, but it was something that basically, gradually made you insane and then killed you, because that was how they made their hats stiff and upright and stuff, but that's why people who made hats went crazy. So the kings and queens have been getting lead poisoning for centuries and going crazy. Not that anybody knows this at the start of the book, they just think they've been cursed. And it's actually an interesting notion in this book, because the male romantic lead in this, Silas, basically spends like so much time in this book complaining, effectively saying, look, you've all decided that this is a curse, and which means you're not even looking for another solution. I have decided this is not a curse, which is why I'm going to try to figure it out. But Silas is actually the prince and heir to the throne in that way that, brothers of kings are heirs to the throne because the kings don't have children. In the case of this king, the queen has had 5 children, a couple of whom were stillborn, and the others of whom never made it past the age of 5. So the king, and the king is one of the 3 cursed families, that there are like 3 families that supposedly have been cursed. Mostly, like I said, because they've all been, like, passing around lead stuff, which, has been killing them. But anyways, so they all turn, the men, many of them turn into dragons, can turn into dragons. It's just kind of a thing. Anyways, so this book opens with the king, not that we know that until, a little bit in, but the king has decided to kidnap a little girl from the neighboring country where our 5 convent sister people are, sort of hanging out together and stuff, and he decides to kidnap a little girl who happens to be the daughter of one of the sisters, and just makes off with her because his wife wants a kid, and his wife has gone just a little bit over the edge in a definably psychiatric fashion, and so he's figuring if he shoves a kid at her and she'll think it's her own kid, and then she'll maybe be better or something. And Silas is just like trailing after his brother going, dude, this is such a bad idea. Why are you doing this? Why would you do this? Why would you put us at risk of being at war with these neighboring countries? We don't have enough people in the army as it is. We are having to hire women for this army. It's like Silas is basically his whole role in this book is basically 1, oh my god, the elf chick is so hot, and 2, the voice of reason, because everyone else around him is completely unreasonable. So he's completely unreasonable about Gwenor, the elf, and basically struggling to make everyone else be reasonable about everything else all the time. I think almost more sympathy for him than many of the others in this series, because he's just clinging so desperately to common sense with everyone around him, and his brother has decided that one of the ancient dragons wants him to go to war with 4 different countries all at once, and he's saying this is a terrible idea, and also the evil dragons are the reason why we wound up in this. Why are you listening to one of them? It's just like this unbearable, unending round after round of why is everyone surrounding me stupid? His best friend is constantly just going on about the curse, and Silas is like, there is no curse, there's something wrong, why is nobody helping me look into this? Anyways, Gwenor, when she sees her adoptive sister, but nonetheless sister's kid getting kidnapped by a dragon, basically manages to grab hold of the other dragon and cling on and follow after, and the other dragon, who she spontaneously names Puff, and he is Silas, and he sort of has to put up with her thinking of him as Puff because she's not telling it, because it's sort of taboo for them to tell anybody that the dragons are actually people. Or rather, that the human people can turn into dragons. It's taboo, so he can't actually tell her that he is Puff. all he can do is listen to her say, "I like Puff and I dislike you intensely." And he's just, endlessly frustrated, and of course his friends laugh at him for the classic, "Why are you jealous of yourself?" moment. The big thing about this book is, like all the others, this is another big bundle of tropes, just like all of the tropes. She thinks of you as two different people, and so you're jealous of the other person that you are. Discovering that the person you've fallen in love with is a prince and heir to the throne. Your father is long lost, you're the long lost heir to nobility. Here's the whole thing. I love the hand-waving, not science-y science of the healing at the end. It is wildly inaccurate about a whole bunch of things, but it has the marvelous hand-wavy quality of, they found a fix, let's just accept it and move on, because that's not really the point of this story. Because solving the infertility pandemic, epidemic, whatever crisis with the rats and stuff is not the point of the book. The point of the book is the Circle of Five, which is something that gets gradually more and more elucidated over the course of these books. This is the first time in this series that we hear about the Circle of Five. That each of those books sort of make it more clear about what they're doing and what they're up to and who these people are, until the fifth book, which is when it's sort of fully explained. And I'm only not talking about that because I'm not talking about the fifth book. But in this one, we finally discover that, it's not just that the chameleon is going around causing trouble, it's that the chameleon is part of a much larger conspiracy of at least 5 people. And apparently all of the priesthood, or at least some significant percentage of the priesthood, because this author has decided to make most of the priests into pretty much jerks, which, fair. Anyway, so, this book, unlike the second one, which just had the unending delight of the ravishing thing, or the first one, which, was just this constant repeated, "Why do you know nothing about sex?" thing. There's a certain amount of why do you not know anything about sex in this, but it's not nearly as bad as the first book, or the fourth book, really. But it's interesting. Also interesting is the telepathic thing where, he can hear her thoughts and she can't hear his, and, so he knows that she thinks that he's attractive, even though she's putting up a really, really good front of disliking him intensely, which is fair because he's being a jerk. Like I said, it's all the tropes. If you can think of a trope that can fit into a fantasy novel, a high fantasy novel, it fits in this one. This one also triples down on that whole modern syntax and turn of phrase taking place in a pseudo-medieval society. It's a thing that you see in all of these books. In this one, the concept, the word dating, which he passes off as being a form of courting, but the thing is, dating isn't really necessarily courting. It's it's like, it's close, but it isn't actually the same thing. There are parts of these books that are just so adolescent, but I just enjoy them so much. Somebody once said, Cleolinda Jones, you can Google her up if you want. She has a live journal that she hasn't updated in forever. Once said, sometimes you just want a Twinkie, and that's what these books are. They're Twinkies, and that's fine. So, you have a few more of these to hear about, and that's all, and I will see you all next week.